Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Shall we start the program?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. All right. I'm audible well?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining us for today evening Gita Essence program. We'll be starting with chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. So Hare Krishna. So let me share the presentation and we'll start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyataite Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. So we'll start our course called as Gita Essence, which is based on the teachings of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So today's topic would be chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. But before that we get into it, let me just do a very quick recap of chapter 2. What we discussed in chapter 2, or what does Krishna discusses with Arjuna in chapter 2. So the chapter 2 reveals that the living entity is an eternal spirit soul. Na jayate mriyate va kadachan nayam bhutva bhavitva. It is a body that dies. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. It is a body that dies and not the soul. So a very important question arises when Krishna introduces the subject matter of soul, that we are soul, not a body. Then if that's a reality, then how does our tomorrow looks different than today? So therefore, to help us understand the application or the implication of this knowledge, Krishna speaks the application on the practical of this wisdom from in the second section of chapter 2, starting from verse number 39, where Krishna introduces yoga. What does the word yoga means? Yoga means it's a process of re-establishing one's relationship with the Lord. It's a process of reawakening one's relationship, a loving relationship with the Lord. So Krishna speaks about Buddhi Yoga, called as Karma Yoga, also, like that, or Bhakti Yoga. This particular terms or this particular process was introduced. And then chapter 2 concludes with Arjuna inquiring to Lord Shri Krishna about the symptoms of a person who has attained to this realization of the soul, who has understood that he is a spirit soul, not a body. Then how does he act? How does he speak? How does he walk? How does he sit? Were the kinds of questions that Arjuna had asked. So if you actually take a look at it at the subject matter, Bhagavad Gita is over. Lord Shri Krishna has conveyed what he wanted to tell Arjuna. He have already instructed Arjuna what he's supposed to do. And thank God, Arjuna didn't understood by the end of chapter 2. And he raised his hand and he said, "My dear Lord, I have a question. I have an inquiry to make." And Lord Shri Krishna, creating a very healthy system of a teacher-student relationship, Krishna being a Swarat, fully independent, he didn't act it as a dictator. He didn't say to Arjuna, "Arjuna, no question asked. Jo bola, so karo. I have told you my verdict. You are supposed to fight. Go and fight. No question asked." Not at all. In fact, through this beautiful dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna time and again would encourage Arjuna to ask a question. And here, the chapter 3 begins with the question of Arjuna, where Arjuna asks Lord Shri Krishna, what is better? To engage in this ghastly warfare, which means to do my duty. I'm a Kshatriya. I'm supposed to defend my right. I'm supposed to defend my kingdom. So should I fight, which is a ghastly activity? Or should I renounce one's duty? Should I renounce my duty of dharma, go to the forest, live like a sannyasi? Which is better? What would give me perfection of life? In other words, Arjuna is confused with the instructions or the wisdom that Lord Shri Krishna have shared in the chapter 2. And this chapter 3 begins with this confusion. Thus, chapter 3 is titled as Yoga of Action or Karma Yoga, in which Krishna explains the technique of achieving self-realization and spiritual connection with the absolute truth through our daily work. Interesting, huh? Krishna teaches the process, the science of connecting, attaining the perfection of human form of life through daily work. We don't have to give up our work. We can continue doing that. And our work can become a yoga, a means of re-establishing relationship. So I personally feel this is a very, very important chapter, very important discussion, and highly misunderstood. It's difficult to understand it. So we'll try in our 1 hour short discussion, whatever we can give justice to it, we'll try with that. So to begin our discussion on this very important topic called as Karma Yoga or the Yoga of Action, the acronym for this chapter is TREE, T-R-E-E. So we'll explain this as we come to this section. In other words, this chapter is divided into 4 sections, a high-level overview like that. Where T, here it is, where T stands for Tyaga or renunciation. Now, the theme of the first theme is Tyaga or renunciation. This word renunciation is highly misunderstood. People have a lot of misunderstanding, and of course, a lot of misapplication also happens. So in this very first discussion on chapter 3, part 1, verses 1 to 9, Lord Shri Krishna establishes what is real renunciation. And the main theme of this message, of this section of Bhagavad Gita is that Bhagavad Gita is not about leaving. Bhagavad Gita is about living your life. Once again, I say that Bhagavad Gita is not about leaving but living your life. Just like Arjuna, at this point of time, at this junction of Bhagavad Gita, he thought spirituality a means of retirement from active life and the adoption of asceticism or renunciation. Interestingly, many people have this misconception about spirituality, and in particular about Bhagavad Gita. When it comes to Bhagavad Gita, a lot of people think that Bhagavad Gita is all about living. If my son or daughter, if my husband, wife, if she takes to the study of Bhagavad Gita, she'll become, the son will become a Baba, and the lady will become a sannyasin, a renunciate, and whatnot. But that's not the point. It is not about leaving. Have you, Gaurav Prabhu, can we have a first poll here? Or maybe, I don't know, how do you know what is the first poll? Let me start. Yes, there's a first poll. Okay, I believe you can see, Gaurav Prabhu, you can manage it ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Prabhu, I'm facing some issue. I'm just
Okay,
checking.
so
Yeah, if you
go ahead. So
you can.
I'll continue to manage it. That's all right. So first question to all of you here, the poll here is, have you heard or think that if a young man or a woman accepts Bhagavad Gita's message, then he or she will take to renunciation? Have you heard like this? I mean, I come across such kind of statements a lot, where people get really scared if their young son or a daughter attends to programs done by us or by ISKCON. Many times parents become worried. Are, you are such a young man or a young woman. This is not the age to study Bhagavad Gita. You have a whole life to live. When you get retired, when you're old, after 60, you can study Bhagavad Gita, because I think this message of Bhagavad Gita is about renunciation. So that had been my experience. Let's see what you all have to say about it. Okay, some of you are still thinking about replying. So I'm going to go and publish your results now, because it's almost more than a minute. So let's see what everyone have voted here. It almost looks like 50-50%. Yes, no, like that. Fine. Okay, let me go to another question to all of you here. Okay. Oops, and polling, not this one. Sorry, give me a quick second. Yeah, let me go to the second poll. Is message of Bhagavad Gita about renunciation or becoming sannyasi, or is it something else? Is message of Bhagavad Gita is about taking to a renounced life or becoming sannyasi or something else? Just wanted to open up a forum to interact with all of you, just to see what all of you think about it. So interesting response I'm seeing here. Pretty nice. Okay. So with the kind of responses you're giving here, looks like you're at least good. You have a good background knowledge about what exactly Bhagavad Gita is. Okay, great. So I'll end the poll here now. Okay, people are just, okay, great. I'll pause it now. So most of you have said, no, it is not about it. And that is what Lord Shri Krishna is actually telling here in this section of 3rd chapter, that Bhagavad Gita is not about renunciation. Arjuna did not renounce after listening Bhagavad Gita, rather he performed his duty. Okay, great. As to start with, let's get into our discussion. The message of Bhagavad Gita is about living responsibly and performing one's duties with detachment. And actually, what Krishna explains, that this is the means of leading a happy life. Thus, in this chapter, Lord Shri Krishna offers us a profound insight into the art of living, okay, not leaving, in the art of living, which means how to properly utilize God-given gifts for one's overall benefit. And beginning with text 5 of chapter 3rd, Krishna says, we cannot artificially give up work or duties, as we are conditioned by our psychophysical nature. That is, it means that we all have different propensities and we cannot give up our propensities immediately. So this about psychophysical nature becomes a very important part of our discussion of Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna later on also going to speak as guna and karma. Or Krishna explains that varnashrama, and then later on this guna, which means the modes, becomes, for the last section of Bhagavad Gita, the Jnana Yoga section, it becomes a central theme where we'll elaborate in the later on sections of Bhagavad Gita, chapters of Bhagavad Gita, about the science of guna. But the point is, I believe all of us would agree, it is not very easy to change our nature. It takes time. It is not that you understood something today and tomorrow onwards you change. It doesn't happen like that. And that's what Lord Shri Krishna is saying, that you cannot take on to renunciation overnight. If anyone tries to do it, then he would become a pretender. Therefore, Krishna says to Arjuna, Arjuna, do not be a pretender. Do not try to do something which you're not qualified to. And a very beautiful verse. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyathan vimudhatma mithyachara sa uchyate. Lord Shri Krishna says, one try to restrain his senses, but his mind dwells on the sense object, and such a person is called as pretender. In other words, Lord Shri Krishna is telling Arjuna, Arjuna, you are not ready for renunciation. To do this kind of renunciation where you can restrain your senses and your mind is free from the desires of sense objects is an advanced stage. You are a Kshatriya. You are not meant to live a life of a sadhu right now, and you have not purified yourself enough. So how do we purify ourselves, our desires, is also explained in this chapter later on. Let's a little bit build on this theme. However, unfortunately, we get to see this in modern times, also in the whole Kali Yuga. There are a lot of people at certain times, not certain times, a lot of people, I would say several people accept the dress of a renunciate or a lifestyle of a renunciate, although they are not qualified for it. And that is what Lord Shri Krishna is saying, that it will bring your fall down. To give you an instance, once at the bank of Ganges at Haridwar, one sadhu was sitting, very nicely in a pose of a meditation. One wealthy family came there to take bath. And you're aware of, Haridwar, there's a beautiful bank there. Mother Ganges is there. A lot of people go to take bath there. A wealthy family came there and they saw this sadhu peacefully sitting in his meditation, thought the sadhu would protect our belongings. So they left their belongings there. They went and took their bath and came back. They collected their belongings, and suddenly the man saw that his gold chain is missing. He looked here and there. He looked at the sadhu and he asked the sadhu, my dear sage, do you know, we had just left all our belongings right over here. Did anyone came and picked it up? The sadhu, with all his modesty and serenness, raised his hand in blessings. He said, no, I have no idea what happened. And suddenly a wave of wind came and it flew away a piece of a cloth which had actually underneath of which this the gold chain of a man was lying. And whose cloth was this? Of this sadhu. So this sadhu had actually put his cloth on top of a gold chain, had stolen it, and he was sitting doing a posture of a blessing. Just to give you one example, which Lord Shri Krishna says that this is not the best means of making progress in life. If you're attached to a gold chain, if you're attached to bhoga and ashwarya, you should not take to the path of renunciation. Rather, engage in your duties according to your nature is what going to help you. So here, this
Hare
chapter,
Krishna,
Lord
Prabhu.
Shri Krishna explains.
Prabhu,
Yes.
little background noise coming in.
Hare Krishna. Is it good now?
Yes.
So here, Lord Shri Krishna explains that renunciation is not about abandoning or giving up one's worldly duties. Rather, true renunciation is to give up the mentality that I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. And we can cultivate this true spirit of renunciation by engaging in Karma Yoga, which Lord Shri Krishna is trying to teach to Arjuna, or I should say it this way, which Lord Shri Krishna is trying to teach all of us through Arjuna. So what is this Karma Yoga? Lord Shri Krishna explains this in the 9th verse of 3rd chapter. Yagnarthat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. In essence, Lord says, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage. Like somebody was asking a similar question, I believe, in our question answer review session. And this is where the definition of akarma comes. If we do a work as a sacrifice, as a service to the Lord, then that work does not cause any bondage, neither karma nor vikarma. It becomes a karma. So in essence, Lord Shri Krishna implies here that performing our duties in a spirit of detachment, wherein one offers the results of his work, which could be wealth, which could be influence, which could be followers, whatever is the result, as in a service to the Supreme Lord, knowing him to be the ultimate enjoyer, controller, and proprietor. Bhoktaram Yaganatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwar. Understanding that Krishna is a supreme controller and proprietor and enjoyer. And then when we do our work as a sacrifice, it becomes karma yoga, where we use the results in the service of the Lord. And if one lives life in this manner, then Krishna says this is real renunciation and this is real yoga. And this work of yours and this consciousness will give you self-realization, which means give you or help you reawaken your loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. Precisely, this is the definition of karma yoga. In essence, our work becomes yoga, a process of self-realization. So we don't have to leave, but live by this process. And for that, we need to change our consciousness. So to conclude the first section of this karma yoga can be put up into two words. What is karma yoga? If you can remember these two words, you have understood the whole subject matter. So karma yoga can be precisely defined as detached and dutiful. Detached from one's selfish interest, and dutiful, which means sincerely performing one's dharma, one's occupational duty for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. With this, the first section of third chapter, Tyaga, verse number 1 to 9, comes to a conclusion. Arjuna began to reflect on what Lord Shri Krishna said. And he thought, to work without selfish motivation is undoubtedly an advanced stage of spiritual realization. And not everyone can qualify oneself to it. And here I have a third poll for all of you. What do you think about it? And it's a question to all of you. Arjuna right now is thinking, to work without selfish motivation is undoubtedly an advanced stage. Yes or no? So here, so the point is, Arjuna began to think, well, this sounds fantastic, but to work without selfish motivation is not easy. And not everyone can qualify oneself to practice karma yoga. And here comes out a very important question, which Arjuna asks. So what about those people who cannot perform karma yoga? How can they advance? And look at the results. All of you agree. It is not easy to work without selfish motivation. So thank God, Arjuna asked a question for all of us. What can we do if that's the case? How can we advance when we cannot work without selfish motivation? So for this, Lord Shri Krishna replies and begins to speak in verses 10 to 16. Krishna explains how to progress to such a level of consciousness where you can work without having any selfish interest. And for this, Lord Shri Krishna explains the concept of yoga ladder. So we all know what is yoga. Yoga means to connect with the Supreme Personality Godhead, the process of reconnecting with the Supreme Lord. And yoga ladder refers to different processes, the different steps on attaining this success, where we can work, we can perform our duty as a service to the Lord without having any selfish interest in it. So for that, Lord Shri Krishna gives a step-by-step approach to it. And this begins, or the very first the stepping stone to yoga ladder. It's not part of yoga ladder, but the stepping stone to yoga ladder. At least we should be situated on this level. If not, at least we should strive to come to this level. Only then we can climb up on the yoga ladder. And the very first step, or the stepping stone, is called as karma kanda, which is the lowest level, which is not a part of yoga ladder, but it's a stepping stone to the yoga ladder. Karma kanda, what is karma kanda? It refers to a regulated sense enjoyment. In other words, a person has a lot of desires to enjoy this world. But very importantly, he tries to fulfill all his desires through dharmic means, through religious observances or principles. He does not break any regulative codes or principles. He does not engage in sinful activities. So this practice of karma kanda brings one to religiosity and gradually makes spiritual life as a goal. Gradually makes spiritual life as a goal. Now, in today's day and time, I don't think so. Very few people may qualify themselves to even karma kanda, because it means there is no meat eating, no illicit relationship, no intoxication also. In precisely no gambling also. Of course, in karma kanda, no intoxication, gambling. I mean, these are 4 prohibited things. Of course, they should not be there. Actually, these are called vikarma. Yes, these are not to be there. And these are considered to be a part of life today. So to get into yoga ladder, at least we should start practicing or trying to fulfill our desires through the regulative means. That's the bottom line. That's the point here, karma kanda. So when persons follows the karma kanda, gradual process, when person follows the karma kanda, then gradually he realizes the futility of material enjoyment. Ultimately, you understand this, just chasing after the sense gratification, it's just futile. It just never satisfies. Then that person progresses to the he actually steps up on the yoga ladder. And the very first step of yoga ladder is Sakama Karma Yoga, where he is attached to the fruits of work and he works for that purpose. But now the goal is Krishna. So he wants to serve Krishna also. So he would use some part of the results for Krishna, but still he has his desires. He wants to enjoy the fruits. So that's Sakama Karma Yoga. When he moves forward further, when his selfish motivation gets a little more purified, then he comes to the next stage that is called as Nishkam. Now he's detached from the fruits. Now he's not attached to the fruits of his work. Now he works for Krishna. And he accepts whatever is needed for his maintenance. And this is a platform where simple living and high thinking motto or statement holds true. Where a person, at a personal life, he lives a very simple life. But for Krishna, he is willing to do whatever is needed to be required to work hard or to serve as opulently and whatnot. So that's the stage of Nishkam Karma Yoga here. And when a person, but here the person is attached to the type of work, not for the fruits, but he's particular about that I would do this particular kind of work, not the other kind of work. So he still not have full surrender. And when a person further gets purifies of this, then he moves into a next stage, which is called as Jnana Yoga, which is free from all mundane desires and distractions. The mind is purified of all mundane desires at this stage. And as a result of it, his mind can focus and can study scriptures carefully with an understanding to search the absolute truth. So Jnana Yoga means the element of Jnana is prominent. So in a practice of yoga, if element of Jnana is prominent, study of scriptures is prominent, then that is called as Jnana Yoga. Then when a further person gets more purified in his consciousness, then he qualifies to the next stage, which is called Ashtanga Yoga, where he has got almost a fantastic control on his mind and senses, and meditation is the main aspect or element of yoga practice. When meditation or dhyana becomes a main element of yoga practice, that becomes Ashtanga Yoga. And at this stage, he knows who is the supreme absolute truth. His mind and senses are under his control. He has a perfect control on his mind and senses. And that stage is called Ashtanga Yoga. And when further he's purified finally he comes to a bhakti yoga stage of where he has no tinge left for any gratification for oneself. His enjoyment of life comes by using all the faculties, God given gifts, body, mind, word, speech, everything in the service of the absolute truth. That is called as bhakti yoga. So this is a summary in concise. I've explained this yoga letter to all of you. I believe some of you may have a lot of questions on it. We will take it whatever time we have today after the session or else in our review session. So here, I just want all of you to just reflect for a second and ask yourself, where are you on the yoga ladder? If in case you have understood what I have tried to explain you through this yoga ladder about the different yoga processes, find out, ask yourself where you are. Let's move ahead. When Arjuna heard this concept, he was greatly impressed. He reflected on Lord's words and he agreed. He said, well, yes, my dear Lord, what you say is correct. I was wrong. Karma yoga is the best practical process by which one can overcome his worldly desires and attachments, because karma yoga is not an artificial means of renouncing. You can still engage into your senses in the work. You can still enjoy and use the results of your hard work in the service of the Lord. It's a win-win situation. It's a gradual process and there is a less risk of fall down. So it's a good process. And in comparison to the higher processes where you have to renounce and go away, but there are more chances of fall down. So at this point of time, Arjuna thought, well, I have no worldly desires and aspirations. And Krishna, you already taught me that I'm not the body but a soul. So fantastic. I should retire to the forest. So Arjuna is still stuck to his original idea that going to the forest is the best thing. And he again tells to Krishna, my dear Lord, I don't want to be the king. I don't desire to go to heaven. And I know I'm not the body but spirit soul. I know going back to Godhead, Goloka Vrindavan is the ultimate goal of life. I'm convinced about it. So then why should I work? I can go to the forest. Krishna said, hey, wait a second, come here. Don't leave the chariot. I have not finished speaking to you. You ain't going to the forest. Let me tell you what you should do at this stage. You're not supposed to go to the forest. And then Lord Shri Krishna begins to speak. The third section, the third section of chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, which is where E stands for exemplary. Here Lord Shri Krishna advises Arjuna to perform his duty for the sake of educating the people in general. Why? Krishna explains in the third chapter, verse number 21. Yad yad achrati shreshtas tat tat evataro janaha sayat pramanam kurote lokas tad anuvartate. Lord Shri Krishna says, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. Hey Arjuna, if you leave for the forest, it will not be a good precedent because you are a leader. So you should teach people by your example. Although you are qualified to go to the forest, fine, okay, if you think so. But what about others? And then Krishna speaks about himself. Krishna says, even I, Arjuna, even I, in verse number 32 to 35 of third chapter, Krishna says, even I perform my duties when I descend to this world. And although I am Atmaram, I have no material desires, but yet I perform my duties. Then Arjuna thought, well, my dear Lord, you want me to set an example. Why don't I set an example of renunciation? Let me go to the forest, please. Krishna said, keep quiet. You ain't going to the forest. Let me tell you why you should not set an example of renunciation. And then Lord Shri Krishna responds to Arjuna in verses 26 to 29, where Lord Shri Krishna said, hey Arjuna, most people are not qualified to follow the example of renunciation. If an unqualified person follows your example of renunciation, which means a person who has material desires and he artificially takes onto a dress of a renunciate and he renounces worldly responsibilities, he will eventually try to fulfill his desires through irresponsible means. and you will become a cause of his fall down. So you should not do so. And then Lord Shri Krishna in the 30th verse, the most quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada of Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 30th verse, Lord Shri Krishna explains the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirasir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. Give up your laziness, vigata jvara. Nirashir, give up your me and mine attachment. Nirmamo, give up your false prestige, claim to proprietorship. Perform your duty. My sarvani, perform your duty for my sake. My sarvani karmani, Prabhupada translates, surrender all your works unto me. In other words, perform your duty for me. Sannyasa, adhyatma chetasa, with full knowledge of me, dedicate all your work unto me. Give up nirashar, which means desires for profit, nirmamo, which means claims to proprietorship, and vigata jvaraha, lethargy. Give up and do what? Yudhyasva. Hey Arjuna, fight, which in our case means perform your occupational duty as karma yoga. That's the point here, where you serve the Lord through your occupational duty and try to utilize the results of your work in the service of the Lord. That's the means of purification of consciousness. And that's how Bhagavad Gita makes it very easy for all of us to live by the message of Bhagavad Gita in whichever ashram we are and whatever part of our life we are. Finally, Lord Shri Krishna concludes this third section of Bhagavad Gita in verse number 35, where he states that it is very dangerous to give up one's own duty and try to follow someone else's path. Arjuna, you are Kshatriya. According to Guna and Karma, that is what you are. You're supposed to follow Kshatriya Dharma, not a Brahmana Dharma. Why? Because you're still under the influence of the modes of material nature. You're still influenced by Guna. When you go to the forest, when somebody would challenge you, you will become angry. You will pick up a weapon in your hand and you will fight with him, which means you are still under the influence of Guna. You're not free. So unless you're freed from the influence of the modes of material nature, you should not accept someone else's dharma. And Srila Prabhupada in the purpose to these verses gives an example of how Vishwamitra Muni can do so. From a Kshatriya, he became a Brahmana. Why? Because he transcended the modes of material nature. Then Prabhupada gives an example. Parshuram did so. He was a Brahmana and he came down to the platform of Kshatriya because they were situated on a transcendental platform. They were not affected by modes of material nature, so they could do it. In our context, Krishna says it's very clear, we should perform our duty. It is far better to perform one's own duty rather to perform someone else's duty perfectly. After this, there was a pause. Arjuna took a while, took just few seconds to digest what Krishna has said. And after hearing this practical and logical process of Karma Yoga, which I believe all of you would agree is very feasible and doable, Arjuna was excited. And he regained his determination and enthusiasm to perform his duty, which means to now fight as a service to Lord Shri Krishna. But Arjuna thought, and I believe all of us would have an experience, as our experience teaches, it becomes difficult to sustain our determination and enthusiasm after some time. And here is my question, the fourth poll for all of you. Have you experienced that, let's say, have we experienced that we get inspired by wisdom, but then fail to put into practice for long? When we hear it, we're very excited about it. Yes, I'm going to do it. We do it for first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day. And by every passing day, the enthusiasm goes down, determination goes down. And maybe, unfortunately, in some of our cases, maybe after a week or after a month, we entirely stop doing it. So Arjuna knew of this weakness. And thus, he asked a question. He said, my dear Lord, what do we do? How, being aware of this reality, Arjuna, I believe the voting is done. So let me just conclude with voting, show you all of your results. Where all of you agree, yes, that's a fact. almost 100%. Understanding this reality, being aware of this reality, Arjuna asked a very important question. Again, he is really representing our case here. In third chapter, 36th verse of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Athakena priyukto yam papam charati purushaha anichannapi vashneya baladiv niyojitaha, which means, even though I know the best course of action, my dear Lord, but what is it that impels me time and again to act improperly and against my good intelligence? And with this question, we come to the last section of chapter 3, titled as Enemy of the Soul. E for enemy, which Krishna would explain as eternal enemy. Somehow this slide just went off on its own. Okay, we'll take it. Let's go. So let's paraphrase Arjuna's question in 36 verse in our context. And I'm taking a case study of a smoker here. Okay. Okay, this looks like it has auto transition. Just give me a quick second, all of you here. I need to fix up the slide. Somehow it has got into an auto transition mode and it's just running on its own. 1 second, please. Okay, fine. Fixed up. So, we'll paraphrase the question here, which Arjuna have asked in text number 36. Where is the sharing screen option here? Oh yeah, here it is. And we'll take a case study of a chain smoker. And let's ask this question on his behalf, how the question would be. Okay, where is the presentation? Kindly give me 1 quick second. Technical glitch, trying to fix it. Yeah, here it is. All right. So, yeah, enemy of the soul we described. And the question that Arjuna tried, so example of a chain smoker. So Arjuna says, when a smoker knows the dangers of smoking to his health, he's been diagnosed by the doctor. He has decided not to smoke again, but still he smokes and then regrets. What power forces him to do so, although he does not want to do it? So here Arjuna is asking, what impels one to act in a manner for which he has to later on regret? Many times he doesn't want to act also, but he's still helplessly forced into behaving in certain manner. What is this force that Arjuna is asking here? And here is my question to all of you. Have you experienced similar helpless situation in your life? Have you ever experienced something like this? Where you don't want to do it, but you end up doing it, and then you just regret, and you knew what I'm doing is not right. I should better not do it. So I'm pretty sure if we reflect in our life, we'll recall many such incidents where we also acted against our conscience and had to regret for it later on. Therefore, I at least consider this particular discussion very important and relevant. And I believe it should be heard and read by everyone. So let's end the poll here. You can see the result. Everyone says yes. All of us have an experience of this thing. So what is this enemy? The eternal enemy or the enemy of the soul? Lord Shri Krishna explains that enemy as lust. And speaks about it in 37th verse of chapter 3. Kama esh krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava mahashano mahapapma vidhiyenam hiverinam. Lord Shri Krishna says, hey Arjuna, this force which pushes you in doing things which you don't want to do is called as lust. It is lust which arises from the material mode of passion. and later transformed into anger, and which is the all devouring Mahashano, Mahapap, not Papma, Mahapap, most sinful enemy, Mahashano, Maha, which means all devouring. Vidhi enam hi verinam. No, Vidhi means to know. Verinam means this is your enemy. This is what Krishna defines as enemy of the soul. Is this lust, whose younger brother is anger. If there is lust, anger is always lurking at the corner. So what is this lust? Lust is not only the gross meaning of lust that we know as the attraction for opposite sex. No, that's not all in all meaning of it. That's a part of it. Lust can be described as an intense longing or desire for some material or mundane sense gratification. That's what lust is. Any selfish desire for enjoyment is called as lust. And when this is unfulfilled, it turns into an anger. And here, let me just take one more poll. Do you all find this subject matter relevant? Where Lord Shri Krishna will now begin to speak about this enemy of the soul. Because if you think it's not needed, Prabhuji, I don't experience any of such issues. I have no kama, no krodha, then I guess we can conclude earlier and probably all of you can have a dinner. It's 15 minutes to go. But, well, actually, all of you have agreed. So I'll continue with our discussion. Yes, it's a very, very important discussion. So as I said, lust is desires or unfulfilled or unsatisfied desire. Please mark a homework for yourself. The purport of this particular verse, Prabhupada explains the origin of lust. In other words, lust is nothing but a perverted reflection of love. The love, the pure love that we have for Lord, when that love is not awakened, that absence is filled in by lust. It's the same energy which is perverted into a lust. So if you want to get rid of lust, the lust can, to get rid of lust is we need to awaken our loving relationship with the Lord. To the degree that relationship is awakened, to that degree person becomes free from this problem of unfulfilled desires. And in the purport, Prabhupada marks, this lust is the cause of all bad qualities. And setting oneself free from it by the prescribed method of living and acting should become the goal of our life. So how does lust covers us? Lord Shri Krishna goes into a wonderful elaboration in this series of verses. Krishna explains the lust covers us to different degrees, and he gives three analogies in 38th verse, just like fire covered by smoke, which can be easily cleared away. A little more difficult is a mirror covered by a dust, and very, very difficult is embryo covered by a womb. So Arjuna is very keen to know. Arjuna says, my dear Lord, please tell me more about this enemy. What is this enemy is about? Is Mahashano, Mahapapma? Please tell me more features about it. And then Lord Krishna says in 39th verse, hey Arjuna, this is your eternal enemy. This is not enemy, this is eternal enemy. What does eternal enemy means? For example, let's say you're standing in a queue at a railway station to get a ticket. Of course, this is a little out of context example. Nobody goes now. Everyone books it on application. But imagine, someday, sometime in your life, you would have gone. Imagine you're standing on a ticket counter in a queue to buy a ticket. And there in hurry-furry, you push somebody and you go ahead of and buy a ticket. And the person who you pushed may get upset with you. But as soon as he gets a ticket, he boards his train, he goes away, he forgets his animosity with you, right? Krishna is not talking about that Nitya Varinam. That's not the point. Nitya Vairina means he is your enemy life after life. He just does not give up on you, not only in this life, but he continues life after life. Just like another example generally I give, in Bombay language, imagine somebody has given a supari on your name. And this gangster would chase after you day in, day out. But after you give up this body, he's not going to chase after you in the next life. So this lust, Nitya Varina, is far much more dangerous than this gangster also. He chases after a living entity, life after life. And that is what Lord Shri Krishna is trying to tell us. Definitely is far more serious than COVID pandemic. By the way, it's pandemic, huh? Nobody is cured to it. Everyone has this problem of lust. And then dushpura nalenacha, which means it is never satisfied. Whatever you do, it is never fulfilled. To give an example, let's say a person is longing to buy a car for oneself. And as soon as he gets a car, the person is just, he wants to buy a car. He has been longing for it. Imagine a day comes when he buys a car and he thinks, if I can just get this car, I will be happy. Do you agree? Have you had that experience where you long for something and you are thinking, just I can get one thing, I'll be totally happy the rest of my life. And the moment you get this thing, suddenly another desire pops up. Just like a Ravana's head, Lord Ram was shooting at the head of the Ravana, the head would cut off and suddenly another head would come out. Similarly, this desire, Ravana had 10 heads, this lust has unlimited heads. It keeps on coming. And that is why Lord Shri Krishna says this is unfulfilled and it is eternal enemy. And such is the vicious cycle of desire. Now, if a desire gets fulfilled, then it takes you to another desire, because desire never fulfilled. If you get let's say a Samsung mobile, maybe another desire would be to get an iPhone. There's always an upgradation in desire. While if a desire is not fulfilled, then a person becomes angry and the desire still continues. It's not that you become freed from the desire. And that is the nature of this vicious cycle of lust or desire. So Krishna says the goal or the aspiration should be to defeat lust. And in verses 40 to 43, Lord Shri Krishna would delineate three-step processes, a three-step process of defeating the lust to achieve a happy and a prosperous life. I don't have a poll here, but let me just ask you, maybe you can just reply on the chat box, yes or no. How many of you agree that we can really never be happy as long as we are inflicted by lust? Our true happiness can only be there when a person is freed from this lust, this unsatisfied, unfulfilled, vicious cycle of desire. Because if there is something which can never be fulfilled, how can a person ever be happy? If you think, yes, that's the case, then the subject matter, the last section of this chapter becomes definitely important for all of us. So the very first thing Lord Shri Krishna explains here, the very first step he says is identify the hideouts. If this is our enemy, imagine you're there on the border, LOC, you want to fight with your enemy. Pehle ye pata hona chahiye na enemy kahan hai? Only then you can shoot at the enemy. So the very first thing Lord Shri Krishna says, he identifies the hiding places of the enemy. Indriyani manobuddhir asya dhishthanam uchyate eter vimohati yesha jnanam avritya dehinam. Lord Shri Krishna explains there are three places: the senses, the mind, and intelligence. These are the sitting places of lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. And I'll give you one simple example to help you understand this discussion that Lord Shri Krishna is doing here. It's a little longer analogy or case study that I discuss here, but we'll make it a little shorter for our purpose here. Imagine it is 14th of August. And let's say you are a police commissioner who is responsible for providing security to Narendra Modi on 15th of August. And on 14th of August, you get a call and you look at the caller ID and the number is from Afghanistan. So you're a little doubtful, who is calling me from Afghanistan? Yet you pick up the phone, and as soon as you pick up the phone, the other person on the phone says, "आ रहा हूं 15 अगस्त को उड़ाने के लिए, सबको खत्म कर दूंगा." In other words, he says, "I'm coming to blow up everything on the 15th of August. Bachao jisko bachana hai. Do whatever you want to do it." And he begins to laugh. Classes, a classic vicious laughter, and he disconnects the line. Now, you are the police commissioner appointed with the responsibility of ensuring the security of every single participant of 15th of August event. What will you do? Let's say you find this case to be too difficult to handle, and you hand it over to the chief of the army. And the chief of the army gets into the role play, and now he's responsible to protect. And he decides that I am going to have a 3-tier security model, not one, 3-tier security model. So even if the terrorist is able to cross 1 or 2, at least at the 3rd tier, he would definitely be caught. So this army chief plans out a 3-tier model. And what is a 3-tier model he plans out? There is a first level, there is a metal detector. Everyone has to go through the metal detector. Second tier of security is everyone will be frisked or hand checked. Everyone will be checked personally by the security staff. And the third level, the brigadier or the commander sitting there would personally decide, looking at the person, to allow him or not to allow him. How do you think? Is a good security model? Of course, I can just ask you to reply on a chat. What do you think? Yes or no? Is it good? A 3-tier security model, a metal detector, and then second stage, you have a army official frisking you by own hands, so nobody can cross through. They're going to check your baggage. And the third, the brigadier sitting at the gate, he's personally going to say yes or no when they look at you. This is foolproof. What else can you do? Such a brilliant model. All right, let's get into the 15th of August, 10 a.m. The Independence Day parade is about to begin. And a very fishy, strange looking person having a black briefcase, wearing a black gown, is walking towards the gate 1. He reaches at the metal detector. He's wearing a burqa. He removes the burqa and looks at the security guard of the metal detector, and he blinks his eyes. And he indicates to the metal detector, the security guard of the metal detector, to switch off the metal detector. He switches off the metal detector, and this person peacefully walks inside the level 1 with a briefcase in his hand. He walks inside, he goes to the level 2 and comes to the gate 2, where now he would be personally checked by the security guard. How do you do anything over here? So now he comes here, and the security guard on the gate 2 asks him to show his briefcase. And the person on the gate 2 opens the briefcase. He's shocked. He finds 3 live bombs in it. And the person looks at this person, the security guard looks at this person and says, what? तेरे को 5 बम लाने को बोला था, 3 ही बम लेकर आया? And the terrorist says, साहब जी चिंता मत करो, don't worry sir. There was a too tight security at the border. These 3 bombs are sufficient to do our purpose. So security guard says, okay, all right, you're allowed to go. He closes the bag, crosses to the gate 2 and comes to the gate 3. And the brigadier sitting in his office looks to the camera and he dials up at the person on the security gate at the gate 3 and he tells him, put him on the phone line. The person is on the phone line, the terrorist on the phone line, and the brigadier tells him, kitne bomb lekar aaya hai? And the terrorist tells, saab ji 3 lekar aaya hoon. And the brigadier, the person on the phone other side tells, all right, put these 3 bombs and these 3 places. And that is what your security. How do you think? A fantastic security model? This will definitely going to ensure the security of Independence Day. I mean, this rough analogy actually talks about our situation. Not 1 gate, not 2 gates, not 3 gates. All our 3 gates are compromised. Senses, mind, intelligence, at all these 3 places, the eternal enemy of the soul, lust, is residing. Such is a fragile or a challenging situation of our existence. Therefore, it becomes very important for us to deal with this enemy of lust, which is destroying our life, birth after birth. So here, lust has similarly captured the strategic positions in the body, and Lord Shri Krishna has identified the strategic positions as these 3. So now, because we know these three places where lust is hiding, the enemy is hiding, we are better prepared to deal with this enemy. Next, step 2, Lord Shri Krishna explains in the 41st verse, regulate the senses. This is not 40 verse, this is 42nd verse, 41st verse. Regulate the senses, where Lord Shri Krishna says, of the three senses, mind and intelligence, senses are easiest to control. In other words, Lord Shri Krishna recommends stopping the enemy at the gate 1 itself. If we can refrain our senses from engaging in sense objects, it becomes very easy to deal with lust than at the mind or the intelligence. Step 3, the battle plan. Lord Shri Krishna speaks about knowledge, where Lord Shri Krishna says, or Lord Shri Krishna recommends cultivating spiritual intelligence. As intelligence is superior to mind and mind is superior to senses, if intelligence is properly trained or directed, then it can steady the mind, and mind in return can regulate the senses. In other words, to put into a context, Srila Prabhupada offered us a very simple formula. Even without our knowledge of this battle plan or this enemy lust, Srila Prabhupada offered us a process by which we can free ourselves from this lust. And that process is called as ABCD formula, a very simple formula to curb the enemy. And what is this ABCD formula? This is not described in the 3rd chapter, but I'm giving you a conclusion of the 3rd chapter here. How to defeat the lust. What are the 3 steps means? This is the 3 steps in application means. The first begins with A for association. Okay, looks like the slide is missing somehow. So A stands for association of saintly people, sadhu sangha, attending to forums, attending to classes, attending to programs, taking sadhu sangha, and not only attending programs and classes, having personal interactions also. That is about association of saintly people. Second, B stands for wisdom literatures, books, reading scriptures, books like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and so forth. C stands for chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And D is diet, which means Krishna Prasadam. Even if we have not studied Bhagavad Gita, but in general, when a person comes in contact with Krishna consciousness or with devotees, by default, these 4 steps begins for him. But now, as we know the application of these 4 points, it behooves us to take to these 4 processes of A, B, C, D more seriously. In conclusion, if we regularly practice this ABCD formula, then Srila Prabhupada and Lord Shri Krishna promises very soon we'll be able to defeat our eternal enemy. Otherwise, this enemy of the soul has been destroying our life birth after birth, and there is no other way to overcome it. It does not matter what we are, it does not matter what we were, or what we did in the past. What matters is the choice that we make today. If we take to the simple process of spiritual life, we'll be able to find happiness and joy in our life, regardless of what is the external situation. Remember the last point, lust, or this unfulfilled desires, unending cycle of these desires, cheats one of a progressive and a happy life and offers only a meager, instantaneous, and temporary gratification. However, the simple process of ABCD formula, it promises a happy and fulfilling life. At the end of it, person develops a loving relationship with the Lord, and as Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita ahead and future chapters, if a person like this remembers Krishna at the end of his life, then after this life, he goes back to Godhead. So here, Lord Shri Krishna, at the end of 3rd chapter, glorifies transcendental knowledge. And he recommends Arjuna to cultivate it to study the intelligence so, so that he can overcome the lust. Therefore, in chapter 4, titled as Transcendental Knowledge, Lord Shri Krishna will speak about what is transcendental knowledge and how to receive it. I have just titled as Cultivating Spiritual Knowledge, but the title of chapter 4 is Transcendental Knowledge. The importance of it and the need for it and how to receive it will be explained in chapter 4, and that we'll see that tomorrow. So with that, we conclude our discussion on chapter 3 that had an acronym as TREE, where T stood for Tyaga, R for rungs on the yoga ladder, E for exemplary behavior, and the last section and the last E, enemy of the soul. With that, we conclude our chapter 3. However, there was one very important discussion which I could not accommodate in our today's session. And the discussion is about the yajna system. It's again about the process of karma kanda to karma yoga, where a lot of details are given by Lord Shri Krishna in the section of rungs on the yoga ladder. Because we didn't have much time in this session, so we didn't go into the details. So I will discuss this particular subject matter in details during our review session. So maybe in the coming week, we can have a little longer review session. Maybe for the first 20 minutes, I'll explain this. What is this yajna system that Krishna explains? A very easy means to find happiness in this world. That's what Krishna promises through this yajna system. And then we'll take question answers then. So of course, I have skipped this part. I have only described the yoga ladder, but not the details of karma kanda and the karma yoga in this context. We'll see that on the coming Thursday with that. So with that, thank you all for your kind attention and attending our today's chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. With that, Gaurav Prabhu, we give it back to you. In case if anyone has any questions, if they want, they can type in and you can read out, or else you can ask them to speak.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. And we are almost little cross to our scheduled time, so we can take a couple of quick questions. So,
By the way, the scheduled time is for class, not for question answer.
right.
I can't have a question answer and a class or chapter banana. That would be too.
Yes, Prabhu, your voice again having some additional disturbances. So, first of all, yes, it's fine now. The first.
Okay, Gaurav Prabhu, before you go ahead with that, I just want to ask, is it all making sense? Are you all able to understand a little bit? I know I'm a little fast, but I'm just giving you an overview. The idea is to encourage you to study Bhagavad Gita. I can't definitely go into details right now because our schedule is such. So I hope it's making some sense. You're not getting more confused than before. All right. Yes, questions, Gaurav Prabhu, go ahead.
So I'll put Radhi Khanna Mataji at the first place to ask the question.
All right.
Mataji, you can unmute yourself and ask. Are you able to unmute or?
Just give me a quick second.
Meantime, other devotees can type in their questions, so I'll read them.
प्रभु जी voice बड़ी crack हो रही है.
Hare Krishna.
Voice बड़ी crack हो रही है. Hare Krishna प्रभु जी.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna प्रभु जी. आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, thank you. प्रभु जी आपका lecture बहुत अच्छा था. Thank you so much. I understand all. And my question is regarding the enemy of the soul. On this topic, you have given the example like the chain smoker. It is in the negative sense. But I would like to ask a question in a positive manner. I'm a mother and I'm related to my only family कि हाँ भी मुझे क्या क्या problems आ रही है तो I relate this question to myself कि if I tell someone to do the things in a disciplined manner, a boy, a child who is not understanding me, तो in a positive manner वो हमारा enemy of soul को कैसे आप describe करेंगे कि वो भी तो नहीं मान रहा, जैसे चेन स्मोकर नहीं मान रहा अपनी
Okay.
प्रॉब्लम
So,
को
yeah, I'll just
ओवरकम
paraphrase.
करने के लिए.
Correct. So the context
हाँ,
over there of a chain smoker is that's his weakness. He wants to give up, but he's helpless, and his helplessness is because of his lust. So that is the subject matter there. Okay. So now let's come back to your question.
नहीं, according to you,
You got the point, now. So that
according,
subject matter of
हाँ,
enemy of the soul, which Arjuna is speaking, he's saying atha kena prayoktayam papam chariti purusha. Hey Bhagwan, व्यक्ति पाप नहीं करना चाहता कई बार, पर विवश होकर वो पाप कर बैठता है. उसकी इच्छा नहीं है, पर किसी कारण वो विवश होकर कर बैठता है, उसके बाद उसको फिर उसका अफसोस मनाना पड़ता है. तो वो क्या
नहीं
शक्ति है?
प्रभु जी, मुझे उसका
हाँ, मतलब
नहीं
I'm
प्रभु
just
जी,
telling you the
मुझे
context.
नेगेटिव का तो एनिमी समझ में आ रहा है,
Okay.
बट पॉजिटिव मैनर में एनिमी ऑफ द सोल जो है वो क्यों नहीं बात मान रहा, वो किस बात से लस्ट में है, मतलब कि वी हैव द लस्ट, उसके सेंसेस को, माइंड को, इंटेलिजेंस को इम्प्रूव नहीं कर पा रहे पॉजिटिव मैनर में. मैं डिसिप्लिन सिखाना चाहती हूँ, ही डजंट वांट टू लर्न द डिसिप्लिन मैनर. वी कैन नॉट फोर्स अ चाइल्ड,
Correct.
we cannot force a positive, like
Yes.
a layman person.
Okay.
Negative personality को तो we want to change.
Okay.
We are right in the negative personality कि वो chain smoker है, या फिर वो drink करता है, या फिर वो
So are you
meat
saying
eater
how
है
to
and all that,
inculcate
या
good
फिर वो
values?
कुछ गलत habits है.
अच्छी हैबिट्स कैसे डेवलप
बट
करनी?
अगर हम किसी को पॉजिटिव वे में लेके आना चाहते हैं तो why he is not ready to learn the
Okay.
good manners.
Okay.
My side
Got it.
कि हम उसको प्रॉपरली गाइडेंस दे पा रहे.
Good. Thank you. So Rati is asking here, दूसरों को अच्छे क्वालिटीज कैसे सिखाना और वो किस कारणवश नहीं सीख पा रहा है. Is that correct?
प्रभु जी वॉइस बहुत क्रैक हो रही है, वॉइस क्रैक हो रही है.
Gaurav, what's going on?
No, I can hear you properly. Voice is perfectly fine.
Okay, the voice is fine at our side, Mother Rati.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी.
Still
Hare Krishna.
not working? Hare Krishna. The voice is fine, they're saying here. Okay, so Mother Rati, I'll come back to your question in case the
Hare
voice
Krishna.
becomes okay. Gaurav, you can type into her, then
Mataji,
we'll
yeah.
type to her in a short
Not audible at all.
Okay. I'll type in to Rati Mataji.
Can you write in the chat box? Can you write in the chat box just for a statement?
Yes. So I'll reply to you, Mataji, and Prabhuji, we can take the next question in the meantime. So
Yes, please.
Yes, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu, I forgot your name, but with the name Neelima Sheshu, you can unmute and ask the question.
Prabhu, in the Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Pranam. Actually, in
Am
the
I
yoga,
audible? Vinayak, right?
yeah, Vinayak.
Okay.
In the yoga
Yes,
ladder,
Vinayak,
you
go
have kept Jnana Yoga ahead of the Karma Yoga. But in that, you have written
Yes.
speculation and knowing about the absolute truth. Speculation about the absolute truth. Please speculate.
Yes.
But in the Karma Yoga, already a person who is doing Nishkama Karma Yoga, he is sharing the results. That is, he is completely sharing the results with the Lord. So that means he already knows who the Lord is. That means.
Oh, in that context, it means both the things. Jnana Yoga also means that he's searching for absolute truth. And Jnana Yoga, it also means that he already knows who's absolute truth. But Jnana is prominent part of his yoga, which means study of scriptures is a prominent part of yoga.
But no service.
See, one is you're searching for the absolute truth. That could happen for Karma Yoga also. In Karma Yoga, he doesn't know who is absolute truth, but he goes to temple and gives in charity. Okay, he doesn't know who is absolute truth. He goes to temple, gives in charity, knowing that there is somebody superior.
That is Sakama Karma Yoga.
No. I'm saying that's a basic definition of Karma Yoga I'm giving.
Okay.
Sakam and Nishkam depends on your attachment. I'm saying there is Karma Yoga could also be there where you're not sure who is absolute truth. But he goes to a temple and gives some charity to the temple, to the Brahmana. That is also Karma Yoga, where he's using his hard-earned money in the service. And Karma Yoga is also there where you know who is absolute truth. Both are there. So the example that I used in case of our application where we know who is absolute truth.
Okay.
So, and we are on the stage of Karma Yoga. So there I was saying for all of you, so we can practice Nishkam Karma Yoga. Where Jnana Yoga path begins from renunciation, where you renounce everything and goes to the forest. So in that context, I had made that example of Nishkam Karma Yoga, where he knows absolute truth, and then he uses this, result of his hard work in the service of God. Okay? So both are there. Not sure and sure.
So if it is sure,
Not
then,
aware who is absolute truth.
if it is sure, then I think
If he's sure-
karma is better than jnana.
No, not like that. If he's sure, then he gradually purifies himself to become on Jnana Yoga path also.
Okay.
Okay? So Karma Yoga can qualify himself to Jnana. The ladder is this only. So Karma Yogi would qualify himself to become Jnana Yogi, which means now his mind is more peaceful and he can study scriptures peacefully. And when he further purifies himself, now he can go and do meditation for long hours. That becomes Ashtanga Yoga. They can chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra 8 hours peacefully sitting in one position with no disturbance. That's gradual progress. And we all are going through this progress. Of course, Prabhupada would often say Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga is one and same, correct? But we are internally going through the stages also. We are going through, these are the standard steps. That's the point here. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Gaurav Prabhu, next.
Hare Krishna. The next query is from Jai Joshi Prabhu. Prabhu, you can unmute yourself and also, if possible, can switch on your video. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guru.
Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhuji, at one point you were explaining that the reason that Lord Krishna gives to Arjuna is that even if after understanding the half of the chapter, if you think that renunciation is better, you should not do it because doing so will give a wrong impression to others. Just for the sake of others, so at that point of time, just taking that as a reason, it doesn't sound or seem very convincing because everyone cannot just because he's supposed to give good example to others.
No, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. If Krishna was speaking to Jai Joshi, who is an IT engineer at Chase Bank in Bombay, probably not many people knows him. Krishna would say, doesn't matter, you can become a monk. Still it's open, okay? By the way, don't worry about it. Doesn't matter because not many people know you. Arjuna, you are a leader. He's not an ordinary person. Arjuna, if you do it, then people will think that's a trend. I should also do it. And people will think it gives me name, fame, recognition. I should also follow Arjuna's path. And then you will create a wrong generation. Arjuna, you're a leader already. Yat yat achrati shreshtas. Krishna spoke that, na? Arjuna, you're a leader. So in that case, particularly in your case, of course, you are also a leader, but not as influential as Arjuna. He's a younger brother of Yudhishthira, who is the king of the whole world, and he's the best bowman in the whole world. So you have to see in the context of Arjuna also what discussion is going on.
So, but then at that point of time, how should we apply it to ourselves? I mean, why should so like you are saying that
okay, let me come to your real question, I believe, which you are trying to say. Then why devotees join brahmachari ashram in ISKCON? Is that something you're trying to go to?
Not that way, but why should I choose to act as per my occupational duty instead of renunciation? Because at that point of time, Krishna gave a justification to Arjuna saying that you should not give up your occupational duty because you are not that purified. You should,
correct.
Even if you are that purified, you should still act in your occupational duty just correct. For giving a good example to others.
Correct.
But then, as much as it was applicable to Arjuna, at that same level, it's not applicable for us because we are not Arjuna. But
correct.
In some sense, we have to apply it to ourselves, right? Why?
So, what is to be applied for yourself? The point is, which Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. Arjuna, you're not ready for renunciation. Although you think that you have no desires, So now you have no material pursuit, so you can go and take the path of renunciation, but that is not the case. Even if that's a case, but you have to set an example. Even if, is that a case for us where we have no worldly desires? Let's stick to Karma Yoga. That's the point Krishna is telling you. All right.
Okay.
So here Krishna is making a discussion. Arjuna, even if you think you have no desires, you have to set an example, which means I am not going to let you go off the chariot. You are standing here and you're fighting. Don't run away. That is what's going to happen. Okay. All right. Gaurav, next.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I got disconnected, so I lost the chat, but I can see that the next was Anushri Mataji. Anushri Mataji, you can unmute and switch on your video and ask your query.
Rathi Khanna, Mother Rathi, I've got your question. Maybe I can reply you on a chat box, on a WhatsApp chat separately, okay? You're still not audible. Okay. Hare Krishna. Am I audible to you well now?
हाँ जी प्रभु जी, मुझे आपकी आवाज आ रही है.
ठीक है, Gaurav, I'll just reply to
Hare Krishna,
her
Prabhuji.
question. Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
I guess you need to mute yourself to hear us properly. You're able to hear us now?
I'll just check.
Okay,
Yes,
the
Prabhuji.
sound. Okay, so your question was how to help other cultivate good habits. Was that your question precisely?
हाँ जी
हरे
प्रभु
कृष्ण.
जी.
आपका क्वेश्चन यही था कि दूसरों को
कृष्णा.
हम Yes, Hare Krishna.
It seems that again she is not
Yeah,
able to hear
okay.
us.
Gaurav will reply her. I'll reply on chat. Okay, fine.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Anushri, go ahead.
Anushri Mataji, are you there? Yes,
Gaurav,
Mataji.
you
can
please
ask.
you reply to her. Huh? I'll reply on the
Yes,
chat
yes.
to her. You're not
Yeah.
get discouraged.
Am I audible? Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, in most of your sessions, you have discussed about the gunas that we have. We have these cultivated gunas. So, how is it, repeatedly coming and, sometimes we say it is our past experience and it keeps coming in our consciousness. And from the readings, we understand that, okay, there are 3 modes of material nature. It keeps cycling, and because of that, we are getting influence, and because of that, we are, we are forced to do it, or,
Okay.
this thing. How do we overcome this? I mean,
That's a whole subject of Yajna system, which I did not elaborate much. So that's a whole process of purification that we have to follow. The purification is what? Of this material contamination. And what is the material contamination? The modes of material nature. So Yajna system, which means, just like I had described in the yoga ladder, karma kanda, find out where you are and practice that rules and regulations so you can move forward. So, follow the prescribed duties according to religious practices. And then if you can move to Karma Yoga section and the Karma Yoga ladder, the higher we go, to that degree of purification becomes faster and faster. So those things are already there. So that's what we have to do it. And the last part of our discussion, the ABCD formula, is the best and the easiest means of purification, where we take to the association of sadhus, we read wisdom literatures, chant the holy Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is called as Sankirtan Yajna, and Yajna for this prescribed age. Chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day, this is what purifies our consciousness. And I already made this point at the very beginning of the session. Please do not have an expectation of an overnight shift in your consciousness. It's a gradual process. It takes time. And it depends on our sincerity of effort with which we practice. And it is not that you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and you do whatever you want to do in your life. No, it's a whole, it's a holistic approach of life, which Krishna says here. Part of Karma Yoga, if you're doing, then the results of your activity have also be engaged in the service of the Lord. To that degree you do it, to that degree your chanting will become effective because your mind is getting purified. So it's a discussion which we need to take more in depth. I will explain on the subject matter more when I explain you the whole Yajna process of the Yajna system, which Krishna explains in the 3rd chapter. Uska keval I have explained you the subset yoga ladder. We'll explain this more ahead in the Thursday session. All right. At this point of time, take the concluding part of the discussion. take to the ABCD process. That's how our consciousness will get purified. And you will experience it. You have been around for a good amount of time. You have experienced the change in yourself. Now we take it to the degree, if we take it, become more committed to the process, obviously the change will be more sooner, or the change would be more quicker. Making sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Nishri.
Right.
Karapu.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, one question is from Harsh Mutha Prabhu. Do we have to achieve yoga ladder by renunciation or following dharma?
So again, what is renunciation as explained? Renunciation is not of duty, which is generally considered. Rather, renunciation is of one's desire to enjoy separately, or the selfish desires. So to how to achieve success in yoga ladder? That's the question, Karapu.
Prabhu, I just read what it is. Maybe Harsh Prabhu, you can
No,
unmute
go ahead.
yourself.
Read the question, Gaurav. You have the question correct.
Yes, so that's the question. Do we have to achieve yoga ladder by renunciation or following dharma?
So that's not the exact question actually. Do we have to achieve, the idea is not to achieve yoga ladder. Yoga ladder is a means to achieve the love of Godhead. So that's the point here. So the goal of life is not to be on the ladder. The goal of life is to go beyond the ladder. Ladder is a means to achieve the goal of life, that is love of Godhead. So the idea is practice the spiritual life, and the foremost of that yajna is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. If we do so, automatically, the awakening of love of Godhead will happen. And follow dharma, follow 4 regulatory principles, and follow the ABCD formula. That's the idea about it. Prabhu, next.
Dipali Mataji, Hare Krishna, you can unmute and ask your query.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, my question is that how do I understand that what is my true karma, or what determines my true karma? So where I'm coming from is that Arjuna was born as a Kshatriya.
Correct.
He was a warrior, so he was supposed to. But being an ordinary person, what is my karma?
No, it's not called as karma, it's called as varna. To just replace the word, his varna was, you can say his varna was Kshatriya. Varna means Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya,
Then we
Shudra.
can say that he was a warrior, basically. So
yeah, warrior. So which means administrator as a responsibility. So yeah, welcome to Kali Yuga. That's what I can say. Welcome to 21st century. See, how this was identified in those days was through the Gurukul system. And of course, the birth had its place. I don't know if you have ever played around or have had close interaction with the cows or the animals in general, even with agriculture. There is a culture of preserving the line of a semen, which means the line, the particular breed, which they call it.
Yeah.
So they accordingly bring the bull and the cow to create a next generation.
Right.
And that's how they preserve the breed, and that's how they maintain the integrity of breed. So earlier, because people knew who is Kshatriya, who is Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra, so marriages would happen accordingly. And the breed of Kshatriya was continued, was maintained. So largely it was assumed within the Kshatriya would be born.
Right.
Largely it was believed within the Brahmana would be born, because the breed was protected. Along with that, they would be given an education. There the guru will decide based on their propensities what is the inclination in the child naturally. And according to that, he was given further studies. And that's how the person would develop his varna, his understanding. And that's the reason people were so happy doing their jobs, unlike today. Despite bachelor's, master's, PhD degrees, still person is scratching his head. What did I study? Did I do the right subjects? Am I supposed to really do this job or no? That's what goes in the head today. So that's the point. So our situation is a little bit in crisis. So Prabhupada said, do the best. Make best use of the bad bargain. We cannot re-engineer ourselves because we have really got conditioned today because of so much confusing education and the culture that we have brought in. So at this point of time, rather than struggling too much to find out what is my varna, I will give you a better proposition. We have a very short life to live. Rather than spending a time to find out what is your varna, which is not going to help you at the end of the day.
Right.
Rather find out who am I, what is my eternal relationship with the Lord, and go out of this whole cycle of varna, birth, death, old age, and disease. That is what Prabhupada called making a best use of bad bargain. That is
Then
what we
my
can do
next
that.
question comes that being a woman, I'm a mother also, I'm a daughter also, and there was a time when I was an investment banker also, which I gave up my career just to raise my kids. Now my question is, because this all thing leads to regrets only in life, that did I do right at that time, or am I doing right at this time? So I mean, if I don't know my true karma, then it always leads to conflicts and regrets. So
Correct.
how to find solution?
Yeah, I would say this because this becomes a very specific issue. This becomes more of a subject matter that had to be thoughtfully discussed within the family, because it's a subject matter which needs the support of others.
Yeah.
Because others have to support you in your decision. Then you can only get over this any kind of feeling of regrets, where you may think maybe I made a wrong choice by giving up my great future ahead. But if the family, all of your parents, your husband, and comes together and gives you a conviction what is best for you, because ultimately what matters is people around you with whom you're living, with whom you're trying to serve. If they are happy with your decision, I would say that's a success for you. Because at this point of time, we really cannot please everyone. To think that I please myself, I please everyone around me is just not going to be possible.
Right.
If you're able to please your immediate relatives, which means your family, which means your husband and your kids, I would say that's a success of your decision to begin with. Maybe it is a compromise for you, but it's a good compromise if it gives them a good future.
Right.
It's a good sacrifice. And that's a worthy sacrifice where you're raising and giving them, you're giving a good future to the kids. And because as a woman, motherhood is a very important responsibility. You're protecting your kids from getting spoiled. It's a great work done. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I can say in that sense. But again, this is subject matter, again, brought to be discussed within the family more. And they all have to align together to support each other. That's the point here.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Rajesh Prabhu, you can unmute and ask your question, and also switch on your video if possible.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
My question is I just have one question. Chanting Hare Krishna and, chanting it with full focus and devotion, isn't it also a kind of yoga that we are performing, or how is it different from an Ashtanga yoga? I mean, let's say I'm there.
Oh, fantastic. Choice is yours. Sit back comfortably or chant, or do Bharatnatyam. I would choose to sit back, relax, and chant. Is more easy and convenient for me, my body and mind, than to do a different kind of, karate or Bharatnatyam for do Ashtanga yoga. Because Ashtanga yoga is a process which is a very arduous and difficult process, where is an external means of controlling the mind and body through the different yoga postures. Whereas chanting gives you a direct access, ability to connect with the Supreme Lord. However, in Ashtanga Yoga, the process of yoga postures that you do, that does not directly brings you in a union with the Lord. Whereas chanting brings you direct union with the Lord. So it's the easiest process that gives you direct audience with the Lord. Whereas Ashtanga Yoga is a gradual process, step by step, of controlling the body, bringing the harmony in the body, then bringing the harmony in the mind and senses. Because, what is that? Skipped. What is the first stage of this thing, Ashtanga Yoga?
Yama Niyama.
Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. There are a lot of prana, yama and yana do's and don'ts. Then pranayama, breathing exercises, a lot of external applications. So this Ashtanga Yoga is fantastic, but not for this age. Because Ashtanga Yoga, the process of purification involved in Ashtanga Yoga takes thousands of years. And that's what sages will do back in Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga. So it is a bona fide process, no doubt. But it is meant when you have 100,000 years long to live. When we hardly have 78 years to live, so the Ashtanga Yoga process just would not work. So for this day and age, the chanting is given as a means, which is the fastest means.
That is the best way of, yoga.
The fastest, yeah, the fastest and the best means to attain the result. Same result will come from Ashtanga Yoga, but it's very slow. But chanting, because chanting is you're directly addressing the Lord. So that's how in Kali Yuga, this is said to be the best.
Okay.
And even at the last point of life, if one could remember the Lord or chant the holy name, he can attain the perfection. Even at the last end of one's life. Second chapter, 72 verse, you can read it as a homework. Example of Khatwanga Maharaj is mentioned. So that will make it clear how easy the Bhakti Yoga becomes. Thank you, Rajesh Prabhu. Gaurav Prabhu.
Next question from Darsh Pradhan Prabhu. His question is, we have taken many births, and after we come out of the body, do we remember all our births?
How many do you remember, Darsh? Of course, none. Oh, Gaurav, you have to unmute them. You have to unmute them. They're raising their hands.
No, they can unmute, yes.
Yeah, so none. So none of us remembers. But in some cases, some people do remember of their past life. And
Prabhu, the question could be that after we come out of the body, maybe after leaving the current body, when our soul comes out of this body, then are we remembering all our past lives or births? Do we get our full memory at that time or not?
During transmigration,
Can you be a little louder?
During transmigration of the soul, do we get knowledge that we belong to Krishna Prabhuji?
Okay, so your voice is very faint, but what I understood is during transmigration, do we remember all of our previous lives? No, that is not explained. However, it is mentioned when a person becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, then he remembers all his past lives. Then he knows everything. That reference I have read, but not this, that he remembers all his past lives. Like that.
But okay. This is true only for the pure devotee.
Which one? Yeah, when you become a pure devotee, just like Narad Muni, you could remember past, present, future. Correct. So who attains to that stage, then he knows everything what has happened in the past. Yes, then that ability comes.
Okay. Prabhu, I have one more question regarding the three modes. Three modes of material nature are actually laws.
Can you be a little more louder or closer to your sound box?
Prabhuji, when we three modes of material nature created the Lord, which are like we are having both good and bad.
No, Mataji, we are not able to get the exact question. Your voice is very low.
Okay. I'll repeat very
loud. Maybe you can type. Yes. You can type. Yeah.
Yes. Question is, Prabhuji, which created bad qualities and good qualities? Why, Prabhuji? Because he's a source of good and bad, but why did he create bad qualities?
Okay, I guess if I'm hearing you well, you're saying why Lord created good and bad qualities?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not like that the Lord created good and bad qualities. That's not the thing. When a person, there are different ways of this particular thing is being described. Just like one simple analogy Prabhupada would give. In fact, Lord Shri Krishna says in 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are two kinds of living entities, divine and demoniac. They're always there, divine and demonic people. One is with divine nature, other is demoniac. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Jaiva Dharma, he goes into a lot of details of the subject matter where he says, actually there is certain living entities who are always demoniac. they would just never change. That kind of description is also there. So all kind of living entity, all varieties of living entities are being created. If I have to give you an answer one perspective, the point is this whole creation is infinite. It is not like some X number. So the Lord is infinite, Lord's creation is infinite, his energy is infinite. And to ask a question about the infinity, it just doesn't fit into our understanding. And that infinity, there are all kind of permutation combinations available, first. And second thing, if a God can be limited, why he did this or why he didn't do that, then there's no question of his swarat, which is independent. About him, everything is unlimited, and there is nothing kind of impossibility. Everything is possible. So there are all this kind of descriptions also given. But I'll go back to 16th chapter, divine and demonic, all this kind of living entities always exist in this world. That's what is coming to my mind right now. If I can think more on it, I'll get back to you.
Okay, okay, Prabhuji. But Prabhuji, the previous question you answered that.
Mataji, little louder.
Yes, in the previous question, you answered that your devotee can remember during transmigration.
Sorry, not audible.
Mataji, about your previous question, you are asking something, right?
Yes, my previous question, pure devotee will not go through transmigration at all.
Okay, Gaurav, we'll come back to you.
Mataji,
If you can type in.
You can type, Mataji, and
if somebody,
I'll read
if somebody has another question, we can take it, because others will have to leave it.
Sorry.
Yes. So Neel Madhav Prabhu has a query. Neel Madhav
I just
Prabhu,
saw
you can
somebody from
unmute.
Manali was saying something. She has to leave. She has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not
Yes. Hello, Manali Mataji. Yes, you can unmute and ask.
Sir, can I leave the meeting because at 9:15 I am having another lecture.
Class ended at 8:30. You're more than welcome.
Okay.
We are having a question answer session. Yes, you can attend the next session.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, Mataji has typed in the question. Pure souls do not go through transmigration.
Correct.
Yes, Mataji, they won't go through it. So Neel Madhav Prabhu, you are the next one. You can unmute and ask your query.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, when we eat and we don't want to eat that food in our means we have a rasgulla and in our plate and we are eating that rasgulla, but if I don't like that and I give to my sister and she also don't like, and but then also she takes, so do we get sin, right?
Oh my goodness. You kids are too profound. What kind of question it is? Don't worry. It's a loving exchange between brother and sister. There is no sin involved. If you don't like it, you can give it to her, and she doesn't like it, she eats it. All right? Don't make your life so complicated.
I also have a question.
Yes, Aradhana.
Like, is studying necessary after school, means after student life, after graduation? Is the studying necessary? If yes, then why?
After school, a study is necessary.
No, after school and graduation and college.
Well, that's totally individual choice. Lord Shri Krishna nowhere says in Bhagavad Gita, जब तक मैट्रिक पास या कॉलेज पास या PhD डिग्री नहीं मिलेगी तब तक भगवत धाम नहीं बुलाऊंगा. Nowhere Lord Shri Krishna says like that. So it's a very individual thing. It's a very individual thing. Again, in your case, you have to discuss with your parents what they want and what you want, and accordingly, decision is to be made. All right, Gaur Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have not seen any further question. So anyone has any question?
Yes, Prabhuji, I had one more question.
Yes,
Prabhuji. when we are studying,
Okay, Nirmad, we'll come to you. We'll come to you. Huh? Let me just ask the seniors if any senior has anything else to say or ask.
Yeah. Anyone else has any query, any question?
I guess it's already quite late, Gaurav.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, 9:15. So thank you all for being around for all this while. Hare Krishna. Nirmada, and the meeting is closed.